Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today, and welcome to today's upload. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button. It takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click the bell icon. And folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's upload, shall we? Today's upload is information shared by a park ranger. His experience happened in 1998. He worked for the United States Agricultural Department. He was a Forest Service ranger, and he worked in the Black Hills. He had worked 16 years as a uniformed forest ranger and something like 7 years, almost 7 years as a plainclothes forest ranger, which I didn't know, one, that forest rangers were U.S. Department of Agriculture, or Agricultural Department, and two, that they had non-uniformed forest rangers. And he was kind of the head honcho of the area, kind of not like the top tier, but he was, for all sakes, in this area where he was working, yes, but there was people that he answered to. He was one of the few plainclothes forest rangers in the region, and he worked out of this area called Bear Mountain Fire Tower, and that is on Bear Mountain Road. And the experience starts out at this Medicine Mountain Scout Ranch and Adventure. It's connected. There's like an 11-mile loop that connects a lot of areas in the Black Hills. And there's this scout ranch that's part of this loop where people can go hiking. You know, it's an 11-mile hiking loop. People can go out there. The fire tower is right there. People are allowed to go to the fire tower. You know, there's, like I said, the scout ranch. There's other park ranger cabins and such all throughout this area. It's a very beautiful area, he said. I've never been there. I'd like to go, the way he described it. And apparently these kids that were at this Medicine Mountain Scout Ranch and Adventure Base had been at this lake called Lake Alexander, which is part of the scout camp, but the scout camp sits on this lake. A few of the kids had seen what they thought was a bear, and then a few of the adults did as well. They then immediately get these kids out of the area, and
they go and contact Cluster County Sheriff's Department. At that point, the Sheriff's Department contacts the ranger station. And the ranger station just below or just above the fire tower contacts the fire tower and says, hey, at the Scout Ranch, there had been a sighting of 1 or 2 bear. Do you guys want to go and check it out? I can meet you there. This one ranger states to the others. So they agree, yeah, you head towards the camp and we'll head toward the camp. They get on so the 4 rangers that are at the fire tower get on their 4-wheelers, which were foremen's, and rode towards this camp. Now, as they are heading towards the camp, there's some trail systems throughout, and then there's some cleared land. They have a route that they take routinely to check on these trail systems that people can go hiking on. So they are very familiar with this area. It's not something that they are not familiar with. They know it like the back of their hands. It's almost like it's their backyard. Even the newer rangers. And so the 4 of them head out, and one heads out from the station, the other ranger station. And they're almost probably halfway to the scout camp, and they see some sort of movement off in the distance. They stop their 4-wheelers and turn them off. They have their shotguns and sidearms with them. He always carried a .45. He believes that one of the rangers that he's known for a long time and that he was with on a different night also carried a .45, which will be important later. So they stop and they're looking, and they don't see anything at first, and then they catch some more movement, and they realize that it's not a bear. They realize that it's 3 very huge wolves, like just monstrous wolves, running in the direction that they're going to go head on. And one of the guys, says, what the hell? That's not a bear. So they start their 4-wheelers and they start to drive ahead to try and, figure out what exactly they're looking at, because these wolves are double the size of any kind of wolf anybody has ever seen. It's almost the size of a bear running quadruped. And as they start their 4-wheelers, these 3 dogmen, which we now know are dogmen, stand up, look at them, like they had to stand up to look and observe the area, and 2 drop down and start running. 1 stays bipedal and runs behind the 2, almost protecting the other 2. He didn't know why it did, but the other 2 were running quadruped, and the one that was running bipedal was actually keeping up with the quadruped. Now they had gone in a totally different direction so they were coming towards, almost like they were going toward where the fire tower would be. And they then veered towards Dakota Mountains. Now, 3 of the Rangers gave chase. He told them, I'm going to go to the camp and make sure everything's okay. Give chase, see what they are, figure out what is going on. I've never seen anything like this. I've never heard anything like this. So they proceed to chase these 3 dogmen, and he proceeds to go towards the Medicine Mountain Scout Ranch. Now, key thing. During his employment there, they were told flat out, he was told, and he recalls it, and he doesn't know if any of the other Rangers had been told this, because he really never brought it up to any other person, but probably 2 years into his start of the career, he was told specifically that Bigfoot exists. Nobody had mentioned anything about Dogman, but Bigfoot do exist. And if you are confronted with one, do everything in your power not to shoot one. If it is harming a human, take it out. And then contact X, Y, and Z. So he was informed about Bigfoot, but not Dogman, but told that Bigfoot and other similar creatures do exist. You may not ever see any of these, but there are similar creatures to Bigfoot that exist. And he also, at the end of this, we're going to refer to him as Casey. That's what his name. And he had to sign, NDAs were signed. And Casey said to me, after telling me all this and then saying, yeah, NDAs were signed, but I don't give a shit. You can call me Casey, because it's going to take them, forever to figure out if that's my first or last name, but they'll figure out eventually. And I don't give a shit one way or another, because I've got about 6 months left to live, because I was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. So fuck them. And that's where he's at. So Casey then proceeds to go to the scout camp, knowing what he just saw was not normal. He's thinking about it on the ride. Was that a Bigfoot? But it looked like a wolf. I've got to continue with my job. These guys know what they're doing. He goes to the scout camp and interviews a few people, talks to a few people, make sure that everything is just okay. Nothing happened and everything was fine there. So he's like, all right, thank you, and takes his notes. And like the call and referral came in, the kids and adults thought it was a bear. So there was nothing really major to address. And he starts heading his way back to the fire tower. He radios in and is told by the 3 other Rangers that they lost sighting of these things because they ran towards the Dakota Mountains, and they were far more agile and faster than these guys on 4-wheelers. So they were, dusted. So he's on his way back now, and he's by himself. It's around 5 in the afternoon. It's a bright day still, warm. He's got about another 4 hours before pitch blackness. So he's got about 2.5 hours of light and riding time before he'd even have to put his light on. And he's only about 45 minutes away from the fire tower. So he proceeds to head back. So he's now about a half an hour from the fire tower. And he's just, thinking about what he had just witnessed, thinking about what everyone said about the bears, and what he sees in front of him is kind of this mass of blackish brown. And he's slowing down and he's looking because it's not moving. It's just kind of like standing quadruped in the middle of this forest. Not really on a trail because, these are trails, but they're not like hiking trails, and they're not really meant for ATV riding for like you and I. It's like almost like a fire road. And he slows down and he's thinking like, what the hell is this? And as he's starting to slow down, he's coming upon it, and it turns and looks at him, and he sees this like very evil looking eyes. He said these eyes looked like they were ablaze. They were so red. They were so this just fiery, orangish red. In the day, the sun was out still. There was some shade, but these things were just, you would see them burning red if it was in the middle of an open field, he said. It was the scariest thing he had ever seen. And he stops. It then stands up bipedally, and he's, on his four-wheeler, and he kind of reaches for his pistol, which, like I said, he carried a 45, and kind of unhooks the pistol or the holster and almost pulls it out, but is holding his hand on it, looking at this thing. And it's staring back at him for split seconds, but the seconds felt like long enough, not hours, but long enough to where it felt like time stopped for, the time being. And then it does this weird kind of shimmy up a tree that it's next to. And it gets to about 20 to 30 feet off the ground and almost turns upside down to stare back at him as it's, in this tree. So it's upside down staring at him. And he's petrified at this point. One, because he doesn't know what the hell he's looking at. Two, he just saw something very similar about 2 hours ago. But this thing's much different. It looks different. The eyes are just this hellfire. And now it's almost like daring him to get off his four-wheeler. He said, I felt this urge to get off my four-wheeler, and like I was not in danger, but I knew I was, like a false sense of security, but he still knew he was in danger. It's just staring at him. It then flips kind of back upright and goes up the tree and just starts using the trees to for locomotion to get away from him. And he watches it using the trees, and he loses sight of it. And that was not even minutes, like 45 seconds before he lost sight of it as he's watching this thing bounce from tree to tree to tree, not touching the ground, but going as far away from him. But then he said it would come back and then go, and it was just a weird pattern. And then I lost sight of it. So I went back to the fire tower, talked to the three guys that had gave chase, and he says, let's write this up as a bear. I don't know what the hell we saw. Everyone's kind of in agreement, like, we'll write it up as a bear. And a few of the guys are like, but that was not bear that we were chasing. Those three things were in the shape of a wolf, but much bigger. So they write it up as bear because, one, the scout camp has already said that they had seen bear. So that's what we'll do. We'll cover our ass. We'll probably never see this again. At this time, he's got probably 18 years in and never seen anything like that. Never seen a Bigfoot. Never seen any kind of sign of a Bigfoot. So he actually, for the longest time, thought when he was told that Bigfoot does exist and that whole spiel, do not try and, apprehend or shoot one unless you have to, and then call X, Y, and Z. So he's, all this time he thought it was a joke. Like, this guy's pulling my leg. But now, all four of us have seen this thing. And he didn't question anyone like, hey, did you get that same talk I did? When you started 10 years ago, 5 years ago? Because I got this talk 16 years ago. Now, they write it up and everything just moves smoothly from the time being. So even though he's occasionally thinking about it, casually entertaining the idea of this being a Bigfoot, he kind of lets it slip out of his mind. Hey, it was just a freak, whatever, Around 3 nights later, he is at the fire tower. He's got to do his shift, and he's on duty with another ranger who he works well with and has worked well with for the past 12 to 13 years. He's got seniority on, this guy, but they work well together. He trusts him to protect his ass. He trusts him to protect his ass. And not Casey, but the other ranger is in the fire tower. Casey's down off the fire tower, checking on a few things, making sure the few buildings that are in the area are locked. And he's kind of coming toward the fire tower now. It's dark. There are some lights on, some floodlights, but it's not illuminated. The whole area is not illuminated. There's just not well-placed spotlights or floodlights. So floodlight looking here when it actually should be looking here. He didn't put them up. Someone else did under protocol. So he's walking back, and as he's coming through, he sees the fire tower, sees the light on up there, and he sees his fellow ranger through the glass, and he sees this black mass come out of kind of nowhere, like out of the woods, just wasn't there, now it is, and it's going up the fire tower. It's shimmying up the fire tower towards his fellow coworker, he doesn't think that the Dogman saw him at this point. But he has a feeling that it is the same one because of those hellfired eyes. So as he's watching this creature shimmy up the fire tower, he looks up and he sees the other ranger looking out, through the glass, but he's unaware of what is coming up. Casey runs over to his truck and pulls out his shotgun, his Remington 870, and shoots this creature 3 times in its back. 1 to 2 shots immediate. He notices that the first shot really didn't. He hit it on the first shot, but it really didn't do much because it's still shimmying up. It looked back at him, or it kind of looked. It was jostled because he doesn't believe that he didn't get direct eye contact. He saw the illuminated eyes. And he said, this was interesting. He said, Jeff, when I saw its eyes at night, it didn't make eye contact with me because when I hit it with the first round, it either jostled it or it turned to look, and then I hit it again. But it was almost like how a robot eye would look, how like a robot's eyes would be. And then he's like, with what's going on with my life, I watch a lot of movies now, and I smoke some marijuana, so I watch movies and get high all day. I've got nothing better to do with my life. What's left of it, he said. So I watch movies, and there was a movie that I seen just recently where these robotic animals have these illuminated eyes. And that's what it reminded me of. It reminded me of these just like robotic animatronic eyes. And which makes a lot of sense, because if you think about it, to see these things at night and to see the eyes glow, like when me and my friends had our encounter, they were not red. They were this whitish yellow color. And I'll never forget seeing that coming through the woods. Or when we drove by the one that was standing on the outskirts of the tree line, staring down at us as we were in our car. It's the most odd sight, and it gives you a strange feeling inside. So by now, the other ranger has obviously heard 2 shots from a shotgun. And he comes out onto the deck of the fire tower and, sees Casey, looks down and sees this Dogman coming up. Casey fires 1 more shot, hits it in the back. The ranger that's up on top shoots 1 or 2 times. Casey can't remember exactly, but he did shoot it directly, looking down at it right in its face. And the creature just drops off the fire tower, hits the ground, thuds, and it's done. There's no noise. There's no whining. There was no... And that's the one thing he said. When I shot it, those 2 times prior to the third, it didn't make any noise. It was silent. Everything was silent. The woods around us, the whole world fell silent for that split seconds. it seemed like. Then he goes in, checks on the other ranger. They call the higher ups, and they radioed into the higher ups, hey, we just had an incident here. I think we need someone that can handle what we just shot. It was not a bear, and it was not a wolf. Send someone down here that can take care of this and handle this business. They were told to stay away from the area where it was. Don't touch anything. Don't do anything. People will be there. A response team will be there shortly. Being that it was 98, the cell phones back then were flip phones or like a square kind of Nokia, shitty cameras. He didn't even have a cell phone at the time. But they did take some photos with a disposable camera that they had up in the fire tower. Now, a couple of hours later, about roughly 2 hours later, a park ranger truck is coming up and a blacked out Suburban following the ranger truck, the governmental issued ranger truck. And the black Suburban is right there too. They park, and one of the higher ups, who is in uniformed ranger, but well more pull than Casey, way higher up in the line of things. And 3 suits get out of the Suburban, like wearing suits. Just get out casually. They walk immediately as the ranger that got out of the truck is talking to Casey and the other forest ranger. These 3 immediately go to the Dogman that just got blasted away. No contact, no eye contact, nothing. They immediately went like, we're out of the car. These guys are taken care of by him, but we are going to look at this thing and figure out the next stage of what to do. During the time that Casey's talking to his higher up, he says, hey, we took some pictures of this. I did start to write up a report as best as I could, and got the other ranger's view of everything, his side of everything. That higher up ranger says, stay right here. Walks over to the 3 and immediately comes back over, like very quick conversation, and says, give me your report. Give me the camera. Is that the only camera you have? How many photos did you take? Try, to remember if, whatever, this, and that. So he was apprehensive about giving not the report, but the camera, because he kind of wanted to have some photographic proof to show the other rangers that were with him the other day. Once again, he doesn't say a word about the other day at the scout camp. He's going along with it. Is it still a bear incident? Now this is a totally different, unconnected experience. Shortly thereafter, there's a kind of talk amongst the three guys, and two of them in the park ranger, that's the head honcho, escort Casey and the other ranger up into the fire tower, and they proceed to have a conversation. The two suits, they had on sunglasses in the middle of the night. And the other park ranger, the higher up, is standing there. They're questioning each other. And they take their sunglasses off. And Casey remembers looking into their eyes and looking over at his boss, his higher up, his command, looking at him like, what the fuck am I looking at? Because when they took their glasses off, their eyes were just this obsidian black. There was no white. It was just all black. And he looks at, his commanding officer. His commanding officer acts like he doesn't see a thing. Like it's almost a natural occurrence with, what just happened. So now he's super freaked out because he's now aware of, can I trust my boss? Can I trust my higher up? Who the heck are these guys? And why are their eyes black? Like, both guys, jet black eyes. The guy outside, probably whatever. And they're flat out told, this is what you're going to say. This is what you're going to do. Here's your non-disclosure. Sign these right now. You're not married, Casey, but you are to the other ranger. Just remember your family. And, this isn't even going in a report. This was not a bear. This was nothing. Nothing happened this evening. Nothing matters. You don't have to write up anything. Deliberately threatened to make them just shut up. They sign the NDAs and they walk down the ladder and stairwell there off the tower, and they get to where the creature was, and the creature is no longer there. He observes the back hatch of the Suburban being open, and he sees some drag marks, and he can only assume that this creature was thrown in the back of the Suburban. But how the hell did that suit get that creature into the Suburban by himself? That's like an oddity right there. Once again, they are threatened about job, careers, promotions, this and that. Don't you want your family to be proud? Don't say anything. And you can have this job for, whenever you retire. Nothing else is said. Casey, from that time period, had never seen anything. From that time period ahead till his retirement, he has never seen anything. That 1-2 times in a 4-day period of time. He's still baffled at how the suit got that creature in that Suburban by himself. There was no reports filed, so there was no, any kind of physical evidence. Pretty much a cover-up. If anyone, ever asks, or ever there's a likelihood you guys were shooting fireworks off, there was never an incident here that occurred with firearms. He then retires, thankfully never seeing another thing. And his last response to all this was, call me Casey. No one really knows if that's my first name or my last name, or even if it is my name. But you do, Jeff. And by you sharing that, even if they do find me, I'm not going to be around by the time they do. Because it's a very vague kind of... But right now, all I need is my marijuana to get me through the bad days, and my TV to watch as much things as I can and relax and enjoy the little bit of time that I have left. And fuck them. Because stage 4 pancreatic cancer is worse than anything he believes those 3 guys could do to him by breaking that NDA. So, that, my friends, was Casey's experience in the Black Hills as a Forest Service Ranger. And pretty sad talking to him from everything that I've had going on with my dad. He said that this would probably be the one time that I ever speak to him. If I have any questions, to give him a call. But, I said, aren't you a little nervous? And he said, what are they going to do? Kill me? I'm already dead. And that was just to talk to somebody that had gone through so much and kind of given up. But once again, I don't have stage 4 pancreatic cancer like he does. And I just said, well, you're, in my thoughts and prayers. And if I do have any questions, I will contact you. And he said, thank you for sharing experiences and information. I like your channel, and I like a few others. He goes, I like How to Hunt. He goes, I like Dark Waters. He's like, Dixie Cryptid. A few other channels that he likes. Politis. And, that's another reason why he reached out to me, is because of my obsession with Tom Mezek. And everything that I talk about, but the main thing is the woman from South Dakota. He said there was a toss up on who to share it with, but I went with you. And, I might reach out and share it with someone else, but I'll never do an interview because my voice doesn't sound, it was very hard to understand him because he was very weak. And you could hear his lighter clicking every time he'd take a puff. So, Casey, thank you for sharing your experience with us. And, thank you for serving our forests and taking care of our forests.
And there you have it, folks. I hope you all enjoyed today's upload as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is your support, after all, that helps the channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.